Why don't we give Donnie Betts a wonderful round of applause for his vision. And also History Colorado. This is a very important discussion. I'm just pleased to be here with all of you and of course the panelists. And what I want to do is begin with maybe just some opening remarks, and we'll start with Gail, and just introduce yourself and just share with the audience just a little bit about who you are and what draws you to participate with us today.
Everyone here okay?
Hi, yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Gail Gonzalez. I'm the daughter of Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez, who was active in the Chicano movement, very active in the early 1960s all the way through the 1980s. The Chicano movement was instrumental with the civil rights movement. Yeah.
I'm Sarah Miller. I'm a sexual health educator. Actually, I got a bachelor's degree from the University of Colorado in behavioral science and gender studies, and I have a doctorate of human sexuality from the Institute for the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. And so a lot of my focus is on specifically LGBTQ and sexuality inequalities.
I'm John Perdew. I introduced myself in the clip. I thought I was going to spend a summer away from Harvard in the South, and I would come back having saved everybody. And when the summer was over, I was still in jail without bail. And I wrote the dean of students a letter saying, I can't make it back for the fall semester. That changed that experience in 63, 64, 65, 66 in Georgia in SNCC, in the Civil Rights Movement, changed my life. And still keeping on.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Nikki Gonzalez, and I teach American history at Regis University here in Denver.
Bring it closer to it, Jeff.
Don't be shy.
I'm a Denver native, and I went away for my bachelor's to Yale University, came back home, did my doctoral work at University of Colorado Boulder in American history, and I guess a moment or an event that changed my direction in my life was working on the land rights struggles in southern Colorado. First as kind of a slave labor, I guess, historical researcher for the attorneys who were working on behalf of the community of San Luis, and then later doing my doctoral work on the history of resistance in that community. And so I've always been, since then, very inspired by resistance and what makes people continue to fight and to struggle for equality.
We're going to quickly move to the audience so that you can get into the discussion, but I do have a couple questions that I want to ask before we do that, and I want to start with you, Gail, and talk a little bit about how is the Chicano movement linked with the civil rights movement, kind of that relationship, particularly as we celebrate Cesar Chavez Day.
Okay, growing up through the Chicano movement with my father and my family, the Crusade for Justice was founded in 1966 and created alliances with the Black Panther Party, with the American Indian Movement, with Cesar Chavez and the farm workers, with Reyes Tijeria and the land grants rights in New Mexico. And I recall growing up through that and, of course, marching all the time and protesting. We participated, and my father was one of the coordinators for the Southwestern region, and we went to the Poor People's Campaign and participated in that complete march, which was a really great experience for all of us, and we all continue to work and coordinate still in that emphasis of resistance and working together to bring equality for all.
And when you think about Corky Gonzalez and your family, we're talking about a native family with a national and perhaps international impact, right?
That is correct. Yeah, we're all from Colorado, and we did bridge nationally with all organizations, and that was really important back in that time.
And so, Nikki, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the Latino community today?
I think we have many challenges, but I will also say this is a really exciting time to be Latino. And I think some of the specific challenges we have are education. I mean, a report just came out in Colorado pointing to the increasing gap between whites and Latinos, and even blacks and Latinos in educational attainment. Problems associated with poverty, okay, have been a persistent problem among our community. And also, I think more recently, well, maybe not recently, but it's become a little bit more pronounced in recent years, is this sort of diversity within the Latino community and this challenge that we have to bridge our differences and to really come together to work for issues that affect all of us. And I think in that diversity lay some pretty strong opportunities for growth and for achievement. So I would say that those are some of the challenges that we're faced with, certainly not all.
Great. And so, Sarah, when we talk about discrimination, we talk about progress, 1963 forward. Civil unions in Colorado. Yeah. You know, address the methods that the LGBTQ community fights, and also are you stepping in the right direction? Lessons learned. How are you seeing the progress of the movement?
So I'm not the movement, so I'm hopefully stepping with the movement. But it's interesting that we do hear this kind of cheer for civil unions. I wanted to address that because I don't know if that necessarily is a step in the right direction. And when we start to kind of see, and we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, civil unions is kind of giving you a little bit of a taste, right? Of like, here's a little bit of equality, now shut up, you know? And really when we lead to like those kind of things and we're kind of buying into this dominant culture of, now we want to get to gay marriage, right? But once we do that, we're going to inherently discriminate against other people who don't maybe want to be in a two-person couple marriage. And how do we actually maybe potentially get out of having our government really endorse marriage and bring about, how are we getting everybody, you know, the things that they need? Like, how do we get people health insurance? How do we get people all of these kind of rights that they should inherently have?
I want to follow up with that because you say you may not be stepping in the right direction. You're not sure. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I think, and I want to kind of pose this because I think this is kind of absolutely important for everybody to participate in. I don't feel it's a step in the right direction because I'm not fighting for civil unions. I'm not fighting for the right to be married. I would actually be fighting for marriage to not be seen as a government endorsed union, and that I don't think the government has that right to tell us. Nice. To tell us what that's going to look like for us, because it can look so many different ways. And it's not just now, I think when we start saying civil unions and now we have gay marriage, so now we have straight marriage and we have gay marriage. And that's still two different types, and that's this dichotomy that I think that we should be getting away from.
Okay.
Answer?
Yeah, great. Now I want to get with John here. Harvard. This is a Harvard guy going down into Georgia. I thought Harvard meant you had sense. I'm sure a lot of people thought you were, you know, throwing your life away, losing your mind, etc. And, you know, now we're talking about LGBTQ rights, etc. And there are a lot of isms, ageism, racism, sexism, classism, and you've probably seen how that's unfolded over time. What is the cost of all of these isms?
Well, I think that there's a lot in common. There's probably a message in the cast of characters up here. Freedom is freedom, and anyone's lack of freedom diminishes my freedom. But you know, most of the discussion, I think, over the decades about civil rights, equal rights, however you phrase it, and whatever group you're talking about, most of that discussion has been an argument about morality, which is quite legitimate, I think. It's morally wrong, I think, to discriminate against anybody because of their membership in a group. And we have lots of language to go with that, but it's also a cost to all of us.